Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, welcome back, Brewer fans, to the Brew Crew Review Podcast. This is Craig. Joining me today is Vince once again. How's it going, Vince?
Hey, it's going great, Craigers. How are you?
Doing all right. Looking forward to the second half of Major League Baseball. Draft just happened. It was a pretty interesting week with the draft and the AllStar Game festivities all happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting couple of weeks just to be a baseball fan. And by the way, do we have Scotty or Chad on today?
No, they're out scouting for jobs and possibly future Brewers. I'm not sure, but and for other fun summer stuff, I'm sure. But yeah, they might join us, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So very busy.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, very busy.
So I guess let's start off with the draft, which is always an exciting time of year for here with the Brew Crew Review and the Brewers. I know last year there was only 5 rounds because of the pandemic, and it really looks like our first rounder from last year, Garrett Mitchell, looks like a real good one. We got him 20th overall last year out of UCLA outfielder, and so far he's tearing it up at high A and double A. So I think he'll be arriving within a year or two to help out the Brew Crew. So that's definitely exciting. This year there were 20 rounds. So we had the 15th overall pick. I guess I'm going to kind of just recap the players that we picked, and then we'll talk about them a little bit. Our first overall pick.
Craig, can you give when you give the name? Can you also give your anger level on a scale of 1 to 10 for our viewers? I think that they would appreciate that.
Rather than an anger level. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, anger for
or just an anger level. I guess if any of them actually reached like if you got to like a 7 out of 10 or 8 or 9 out of 10 on an anger level, just at least throw that in there. You don't have to do it for everybody, but just the few of them that you're.
I'll do it for the first couple picks. I'll do it for the first 5 rounds. Okay, here we go. First overall.
Okay.
First round pick, we had 15th overall pick. We picked out of Boston College, outfielder, center fielder, Sal Frelick. And our first round comp pick, we picked. Oh, my anger level on that one was a 6 out of 10, so not too bad. And our comp pick was second baseman Tyler Black, right state. I'd say anger level 7 on that one. Mostly because I wanted the player pick just before him. But anyway, that's right. And left-handed pitcher in the second round, Russell Smith, 5 anger level. That's TCU. Again, all college picks here at the top of the draft. Third round pick, third baseman Alex Belenis from Louisville, originally from Oak Creek, Wisconsin. My anger level was 0 on that one. I was actually quite happy about that. Fourth round pick, right-handed pitcher Logan Henderson from McLennan Community College, junior college. Fourth round, my anger level on that was 4. Fifth round, Ethan Murray, shortstop from Duke. My anger level was a 10. Solid player, but nothing too spectacular, and I really don't like Duke University. But anyway, for many reasons, obviously they knocked out the batters in the game that you and I watch in basketball, unfortunately. But anytime I just don't like Duke. But anyway, yeah, so the rest of the, I guess I won't bore our fans with the rest of the rounds, but rounds 6 through 20, we picked mostly college players until the 11th round, or I'm sorry, until the 10th round. Or 11th round, we picked from 11th through 17th round. We finally picked all high schoolers. One guy I'm most excited about is our 11th round pick, Rock Reggio, from Thousand Oaks High School in California. He was thought to be a second or third round talent, but was most likely going to commit to his Oklahoma State commitment. But if the Brewers can save money with some of their higher picks, possibly speculate maybe their second round pick, they might be able to sign him, or if not him, one of the other high schoolers in that range that all have strong college commitments. So that would be kind of cool. So anyway, overall, I guess before I kind of just go over each of the first 5 round picks at least, what were your thoughts overall on the draft, Vince?
Craig, it's hard to tell, about some of these guys. We really don't know a ton about most of them. We haven't seen them play in person, so you're really relying a lot on, so-called experts. I don't get too worked up about it, to be totally honest. I know that there's a lot of people who are smarter than I am about, kind of evaluating high school and college talent. And, certainly there's guys that stand out and you want to target people like that. But, baseball, like football or basketball, I think it is kind of a crapshoot. I think that, you can find gems in the later rounds that, every other team and their scouting departments has somehow managed to overlook. And there's countless examples of that historically, and also first round picks that, are complete busts and misses. So, I look at the Brewers' overall philosophy to drafting, I guess, more than I look at the specific names. And I think that generally speaking, I think that Stearns and his scouting director and his staff have proven that, they are able to evaluate talent fairly well. I think that, they've been able to put some decent bats in the system the last couple of years with Terang and Mitchell. I think that pitching remains a bit of a weak spot, obviously, in terms of organizational depth outside of the big league level, fortunately. But, hopefully they're doing things to mitigate that. But as far as individual names, it's really hard to say. And I wouldn't even care to venture a guess as to, how these guys are going to end up, just again, because I haven't seen any of them play in person or on TV even.
Well, our first round picks, I'll feel ourselves. We're like a Boston College. I think I projected to go 12th overall in our mock draft, and we got him at 15. So I guess you could argue he's a little bit of a value pick even. I kind of wanted us to go for a pitcher with that pick, possibly Ty Madden, who went just before our complimentary first round pick. But anyway, the Sal Frelick is a hell of a hitter, one of the best hitters in college this year. He does have more of a leadoff profile. He's left-handed, can get on base. Also had hockey, played a lot of hockey in college and whatnot. So he's a real tough kid. So I don't know. It's tough to throw out comps. But anyway, if I had to say, I'll for these first couple picks, I'm just going to throw out a ceiling and a floor comp just to give Brewer fans some idea what type of player we're looking at. For Sal Frelick, I'm going to say his ceiling comp is probably someone like Andrew Benintendi, who's currently on the Royals, traded from the Red Sox. And probably the floor for that would probably be maybe Dave Krenzel, who is another similar profile player the Brewers picked. Oh, God. Probably like 20 years ago now. But
yeah, at a former interview for us, that was a good day in Nashville.
It was.
Who, by the way, Craig, he does follow our podcast on Twitter. It's a recent addition to our followers. Yeah, he does. So that's good. So maybe we can get a follow out of this kid as well. I think we should talk a little bit about a local pick that the Brewers made. Do you want to talk about our pick of a player out of Oak Creek, Wisconsin? Of course, he had played in Louisville during college, but it's always a feel-good story. I know these are teams and their businesses and all that stuff. You can't make picks just for feel-good moments, but I think it's pretty exciting when you draft a kid who grew up in Oak Creek, who is a Brewer fan. He probably grew up watching our show. I'm sure he did. But he, definitely. I'm sure he loves Scott and his hair, but. This is a kid who grew up idolizing guys like Ryan Braun. There was a great picture I saw on social media of this kid at a game. He was probably, 8 or 9 years old, and he's sitting there watching Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder. And it's weird for me, and probably for you as well, to think that this is already becoming a generational thing. Like, you've got a group of kids that grew up with these guys and now are at the age and level that they could themselves be drafted. But here we are. But anyways, sorry. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And
definitely. Like Alex,
cool story.
Third baseman Alex Blenis drafted, went to Oak Creek High School, went on to college at Louisville. Was really projected to be a first-round pick at some point a year ago. However, he did get hurt and had kind of some off numbers, and finally started rebounding toward the end of this year. But with that being said, he was able to fall all the way to the third round. So even without the Wisconsin connection, I would have been pretty excited for this pick. As longtime listeners and viewers know, I'm actually a big fan of power hitters, and he's definitely the best power hitter that we picked in this draft. And not only that, one of the best college power hitters that was available. So he hits from the left side, which was a big theme here for the Brewers for a lot of these to the top round picks. And yeah, he really profiles probably better at a first baseman than as a third baseman, but I think he will hit, probably not for a high average, maybe a lower average. He does have some holes to his swing, but I feel like the kid could have almost like a Joey Gallo light type profile where maybe not quite that athletic, but definitely has power to hit 30 homers a year, get on base, and hit anywhere from around
Wow,
250 or
Craig,
something.
you're comparing him to Gallo. It's been a man crush of years for, geez, a decade. Good Lord. That's awesome.
Yeah. And again, he probably doesn't have quite that much power, but 30 home run power, I'll take it or whatever. And we'll see.
Heck yeah.
Obviously there's also his floor is kind of lower though. I mean, the fact that he didn't hit all that well in college this last year or whatever. I mean, if he could be exposed by upper level pitching, I guess I'll put it that way. But that could be said of any basically draft pick. So there you go. I'm pretty excited about his profile. So
yeah, and listen, he does come from a good program too, Craig. That should be pointed out. He wasn't struggling at Oak Creek High School, and
yeah,
he was playing at a top collegiate program. Louisville's a great program. They play top programs. So, I think that a guy like that who's shown that sort of potential, he's shown that he's obviously committed to playing the game at the highest levels. I think that you're going to see that. There were a lot of guys who in 2020, whether it was from injuries or just it being a weird COVID year, whatever, I think that, guys were kind of off track a little bit. And I think that you're going to see guys sort of rebounding to hopefully career norms in his case. And I think that that's going to be the case for him. And I think a guy like that really does stand to benefit from the coaching that you receive in the professional ranks too, to have guys who are, dedicated literally to just bringing you up to, you're bringing your game up to the highest level possible. And that's their full-time job. It's pretty exciting. So I think that certainly some of the core tools are there, at least from what I've seen on this kid. And I'm pretty excited about that pick.
Yeah, and of course, former Brewer first-round pick Corey Ray was actually out of Louisville as well, I believe, before Blount was there. But yeah, definitely very exciting, and I think he'll be an instant Brewer fan favorite. So yeah, definitely something. And then we did pick two pitchers out of college, also in the first 4 rounds of the second and fourth round pick, a left-hander Russell Smith and a right-handed pitcher Logan Henderson. And of course, we didn't pick any pitchers in last year's draft, so it's nice to see us adding some arms to the system. And those, I got some pretty high hopes for those guys. I'm actually higher on our 4th round pick Logan Henderson than our second, but of course. Both of them would be exciting to have in the system, so that should be fun to follow as Brewer fans. So,
absolutely, and we love watching these guys rise through the system too, and that's part of it too in baseball. That's different than the other sports that I love is that I may not know many of these guys coming out of high school or college, but it's fun to follow their journey. And I have talked about it in pre-production meetings for years, but it's cool to see the years of development and years of work and years of dedication that it takes for these guys to finally make it, hopefully at some point, some of them to the big leagues. And that's part of the whole story. It's part of the charm of baseball to me. It's not like, again, the NBA or the NFL where next year those guys are going to be, in the top rung of their profession. It's going to take a long time. And that's all part of it. I love it. I think it's a charm of baseball.
Absolutely, and it's so much different from the other sports like the NBA and the NFL, where those not the first round picks or the first couple round picks basically make an immediate impact the next year. A lot of times, where in baseball it's like a much longer journey, and ultimately there's a lot more competition. But yeah, it's definitely cool for CCA players make major league debuts and whatnot, and really fulfill their dreams, so to speak. And it all starts on draft day, and that's what's so exciting. So the AllStar game itself, unfortunately, the National League did lose, like they usually do. Apparently, I think it was like what?
It's a thing. I don't understand
it.
I don't get it. Like, how could that be the thing every single year? I just don't understand the difference between. I understand the difference between the leagues, but I don't understand how the discrepancies are so strong that it's going to create the same outcome every single season. It's just bizarre. But
and not only that, but I mean. if you look over all, and someone should probably do a study on this, but I mean, if you look out throughout the history of the All-Star game, there's been long stretches of dominance by one league over the other.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
they happen to have the best players at that time. It's usually fairly balanced. It just seems like there's some kind of weird streaks going on. Like you'd have to look that up or whatever. But there has been lots of streaks of I want to say like 10 plus or 7 plus or 10 plus games in a row by either the AL or the NL, and now the AL is currently dominating. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. But that's not really the point of who, not necessarily who wins, but kind of an exhibition to see, especially young fans, to see their star players all together in the same game and just the challenge of it all. And of course, the Brewers for the first time had 5 All-Stars. I believe that was the first time they ever had 5 All-Stars with Baez, Peralta, Woodruff, Hader, and Burns. No, of course, Woodruff.
Yeah, Narvaez. Yeah, Narvaez.
Yep. And Woodruff didn't pitch, neither did Hader, but Corbin Burns pitched 2 innings. Unfortunately, took the loss and gave up a monster shot to Vlad Guerrero. However, Peralta, I don't know if you saw his inning, but it was literally dominant. He struck out the side and really had it going. And that was a highlight of the All-Star game for me, that inning. And Narvaez, I think it was 1 for 2 and had a hit also. So kudos to the Brewers All-Stars for making a team, those first timers, of course, and competing in the game. And it was pretty awesome to see.
I think it tied. I'm trying to think back. I think it tied 1982. I think the Brewers had 5 All-Stars in '82. But I could be wrong. I'm going to have the Scotty's interns can double check. But I think it was Mahler, Cooper, Fingers, and Simmons all were All-Stars in '82. And I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. Or it actually
we'll have our
80. It could have been 83 because I know that we didn't have Sutton on team. So I think it might have been 80. But anyway, yeah, definitely. I think it did at least tie the mark. So.
83. No, I didn't say Sutton. I said Fingers, Mahler, Cooper, Simmons, or maybe Ogilvy. I can't remember. But
could have been even Ogilvy. I'm not sure.
Ogilvy. We'll have our interns check on that. We'll post it on our social media, so you'll see that on Twitter. Brew 1.
But this was definitely the most pitchers we've ever sent with 4. Obviously, that hasn't been a strong point in the organization. Even back the great '82 team was not necessarily pitching centered. It was all
no, man.
So
Harvey's wall bangers. They were
exactly.
They were an offensive juggernaut. No, definitely. No, that was exciting, and it's kind of cool because you think that in another typical season, and I'm hopeful that I'm not wrong on this, but somebody like Christian Yelich should be a perennial All-Star. He did put up the numbers this year in the first half to justify that, and he was injured for part of it. But you'd think that going forward, if the Brewers have that many pitchers who are All-Stars, coupled with guys like Yelich and other mainstays in the lineup, it really is a complete team if we can just get a couple guys going to their potential. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion.
Well, no, the Brewers are in first place in NL Central, and they have the pitching, I think, to carry them deep. I mean, there are some concerns with the pitching holding up the end of the season with a couple of factors. First of all, the innings that they're going to be piling on that they didn't get last year. And then the second thing would be whether or not that whole sticky substance spin rate ban, whatever, is going to factor in it all going forward. But I think the Brewers are going to be okay, and that's it'll be an exciting second half. I guess the one question that we should pose is, what do you foresee? How do you foresee the second half playing out, and where do you think the Brewers? Who are the Brewers' biggest challenges when it comes to making the playoffs, and where do you think that the Brewers would need to improve the most?
Yeah, that's good. Those are good. And just to kind of hit back at your other points, that I think that every team in baseball is dealing with the ramifications of the shortened season in 2020. For their pitchers as well. So I don't think it's going to be a Brewer-centric issue if it is an issue. So every pitcher was limited to the amount of innings that they threw last year, and so I think that's true. And same with the sticky substances. And actually, the Brewers' numbers post substances have actually somehow. I think that I'm hopeful that that's not been the key to our success from a pitching perspective. But anyways, to answer your question, I think that I think that the Brewers at the deadline. We'll have another show before the deadline, I'm sure, when Scott is available. Hopefully here on the next week or so. But I think that we are still struggling to find that clutch at bat at times. I think that we are going to have to target a bat. So I think that offense will continue to be an issue in the second half. I think that our bullpen is strong. Josh Hader had a very rough series against the Reds leading up to the break. He's done that every season. He's been in Milwaukee. He's had like a few rough games in a row and then goes back to being Josh Hader. Whether or not he's going to be the same dominant Josh Hader of the first half of every game except for the Red Series, I don't know. But my hope is that if for some reason he does take any steps back, that's when a guy like Devin Williams can kind of step back into the role that he filled last year and just be as clutch as he was. And I think that we're fine at the back end of the bullpen. So I think that our starting rotation is strong. I think that our biggest issues are offense to a degree and overall depth. We talked about it on our previous show. David Stearns and Matt Arnold have done a great job of kind of having that last roster spot or two filled with a guy that is able to be productive at times. But I think it's even more important in the second half to kind of solidify some of those roles. And I think the Brewers bench could use a little bit of work. So I would say offense generally and bench.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you that I think they need to add a big veteran bat somehow. And again, they probably have the luxury of getting one wherever besides maybe, well, even as a backup catcher. But I assume it'll be probably most likely a corner infielder.
Yeah.
And again, we just did add Rowdy Tellez or whatever a couple weeks ago, but I really think that we shoot a little bit higher than that. No offense to him, but that we try to really bring in a nice veteran bat that can,
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I'm fine with Tellez, but remember that Tellez is kind of filling in for Vogelbach, who's hurt, so it doesn't really improve anything. It just essentially fills a gap, that had existed because of an injury. So it's not a knock on Tellez to say you still need a bigger bat at first or a right-handed bat at first. It's just what it is. So
so our current options at first base are Hira, who you look at his overall numbers, it's still been pretty horrific, and I don't know if he's trustworthy in a pennant chase right now. And then platooning with either Vogelbach or Tellez, or very similar players. I really feel like we need an upgrade there, or across the diamond. Once Juan comes back, obviously Urias gets switched over to third base with Adames starting every day at short. So we don't necessarily need a third baseman, but if we had to add a left-handed bat as opposed to a right-handed bat at first, I would think that player could at least platoon at third with Urias. So we'll see what's going to happen. And of course, contending teams are always looking for some upgrades in the bullpen. So, I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm for Stearns to think out the side of the box, because every time we try to guess what position he's going to fill, he usually fills one that seems already that we don't have a need of. So it wouldn't surprise me if he
agreed.
back of the bullpen or something like that. Or who knows, even another outfielder.
Well, and Stearns might tell you that, if nothing is done, he's going to tell you that it's because he already acquired Willie Adames as our deadline piece in May. I mean, I don't know that that's what is going to happen. I do think the Brewers will be somewhat active. I think that we will be buyers clearly in the market. It would take a lot to change that in the next couple of weeks. But, if the Brewers end up standing pat, they're going to point to Adames and the constant churn in the bullpen and the acquisition of guys like Tellez, I suppose, as being, kind of our moves, quote unquote. But I think the Brewers end up getting at least one bullpen arm and probably a bat as well. And I don't know about the bench, but acquiring another bat of any caliber, even if it's a starter, is going to improve the bench, by definition, because then you move somebody else. So I think that, you're going to see moves kind of like that. And I know that Scott had talked to our anonymous source, Don Carter, about what potential moves that the Brewers might make. I just don't know what he said, because Scott's been really busy, so we haven't heard much from him.
Yeah, he does talk to TC regularly already, but I think overall it's going to be exciting. Obviously, we open up the first half with a 3-game set in Cincinnati, and the last series before the break against the Reds at home didn't go that well. We only won one of the 4 games. I really think it's going to be important for us to start out strong. You don't want to let the Reds back nearly even with us after this and have pressure on us. It's kind of nice to have teams a little bit at arm's length going forward. But I think it'll be exciting second half, and I really feel like we are the best team in the NL Central. So the Reds, probably the second best team.
The Reds are the only team that has a winning record against the Brewers in the NL Central.
Yeah. So, and again, they have really good hitters, decent starting pitching, obviously, but so far terrible bullpen. But they could shore that up themselves. And if they were to acquire, some bullpen arms, I mean, they could really solidify their team. So again, it's one of those things where the Brewers really have to keep pace and make sure that they do win the NL Central. I think that's the only real route to make the playoffs. I mean, obviously they could sneak into the wild card, but I really feel that winning the Central is going to be the route to the playoffs this year, and I feel like they're going to do it. So.
Yep, sounds great. I'm on board. I think it'll be a fun second half, and really looking forward to it. The first half has kind of flown by per usual, so it's been exciting to watch the Brewers kind of improve and get really hot for a while. And this team has gone on some streaks. It's been exciting when they're hot because they knock off 5 wins in a row and 8 wins in a row and 12 wins in a row, or 11 wins, I guess is where they ended up. So it's exciting to see this team when it gets hot. So let's hopefully start off the second half on a good note tonight. And there are storms in the Cincinnati area. I don't know when you're going to be listening to this podcast. So you obviously know by the time that you're listening, but hopefully Brewers can avoid the storms tonight and start off the second half strong with a Game 1 win.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely looking forward to it. So, all right. Well, again, follow us on our Twitter, Brew Crew Review 1.
Yep.
And yeah.
Definitely. Send questions to Scott. I'm sure we'll get to him at some point. Brew Crew Review Podcasts with an S @gmail.com.
Scott is all over those emails and his interns, definitely. So we'll go ahead and answer those for you on our next episode. And yeah, well, next time we come back at you, we'll have some previews for the Brewers trade deadline possibilities, or maybe we'll even pull a trigger on a deal before our next one. We'll see. So, all right, looking forward to the second half.
Great.
Stay classy, Brewer fans, and go Brewers.
Go Brewers. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, Chad. Do.